Take me riding in the car, take me riding in the car. Take you riding in the car, I'll take you riding in the car.
From the turn of the 20th century until World War II, this stretch of Locust Street between downtown and midtown was where St. Louisans bought their automobiles. If you look closely, you can still see the faded signs for extinct autos, like this one for Locomobiles. After decades of neglect, the old neighborhood's being redeveloped, and at a recent celebration of the street's rebirth, dozens of vintage car enthusiasts turned out to remind us of Locust Street's history.
This area of Locust Street, which mainly is centered around the 3000 block but extends eastward and westward from there, was really known as Automobile Row. Many prominent dealers that sold cars ranging from Locomobile to Ford to Moon to Stutz, names that are long forgotten and names that are fondly remembered, were up and down Locust Street during that stretch. Understand that almost 100 makes of cars were made only in the city of St. Louis. And St. Louis, until the success of the Model T Ford, was considered by many to be the real center of the automobile manufacturing business.
And though Auto Row does not aspire to be an automotive center again, ironically, one of the pioneers of its rehabilitation is a business that sells vintage cars.
There was nothing going on down here. In fact, virtually every building on the block, the street-level windows are boarded up or bricked up. Our building actually was completely boarded over in front. We were looking for a building to sell old cars out of, and we wanted a building that had some kind of automotive history to it. We didn't want to go into an old warehouse and sell cars out of that, or sell cars out of a Butler building, or something without any character. We restored our building, and I think it was kind of a catalyst. There's been a lot of other people investing on this block. There's a lot of condominiums being put in and other businesses on the first levels of these buildings. Across the street here is going to be a chocolate confectionery. I believe there's going to be a women's clothing store down the line here. And basically a lot of residentials moving into the neighborhood.
It's been kind of forgotten for many years, and now because of its strategic location and really because of the quality of the buildings that are here, there's a new attention to the area. These buildings were, for the most part, built with a great deal of attention to design. On the street we're on, or the block we're on, about half the buildings were designed by Preston Bradshaw, the gentleman who designed the Coronado Hotel, the Lenox Hotel, the Chase Park Plaza hotels. And this is, if you didn't call this Automobile Row, you might call this Bradshaw Row.
St. Louis is a city of neighborhoods, each with its own history. Auto Row put the city on wheels, transforming it into a sprawling metropolis. It's not hard to imagine our grandparents peering through the windows of these buildings, thrilled by the possibility of owning a motor car.
Cars in the early days were not sold like they are now. You shopped for a car in the teens and 20s like you would shop for a washing machine now. There weren't car lots. Car lots pretty much came on the scene, probably started in the late 20s. Cars were originally sold inside. All these buildings, none of these buildings down here have lots. These are urban buildings that are right on the street. And if you were interested in a car, you would go in and you would shop in the showroom. And sometimes cars were actually stored on the roofs of these buildings. A lot of these buildings have large elevators you could actually put an early car on and hoist up to the roof.
You can still buy a 1924 Moon on Locust Street at the Charles Motor Company. And on those days when the neighborhood celebrates its new life, the old cars come back to park outside the buildings in which they were once sold, and crowds turn out to reconnect briefly with the past as Auto Row enters a new age in a changing city.
There's a lot of nostalgia that goes with the old cars. Nostalgia for people that were not even born when these cars were around. It's as though time has skipped a generation or two and people are rediscovering a golden past.
It's interesting that there's really a interrelationship of people who enjoy architecturally significant and interesting buildings and people who enjoy old cars and vintage cars. There's some overlap there, and it comes together in this neighborhood.